I'm a 36-year-old guy living in a cozy ground-floor apartment in a quiet town in England with my girlfriend. This whole thing happened on a Saturday night when I found myself home alone while my girlfriend went out with a couple of friends she hadn't seen in ages. Now, I'm a bit of a night owl, especially on weekends, so I figured I'd stay up late just in case they needed a ride home instead of getting a taxi. My plan was to catch up on some YouTube videos and maybe indulge in a little laptop gaming. It was around 10:30 p.m. when I heard the unmistakable sound of my front door handle rattling. I paused the TV, my heart skipping a beat as I listened. Sure enough, I heard it again. Someone was messing with my door handle, and they were doing it fast. Confusion washed over me because my girlfriend wasn't due back until closer to midnight, and she definitely wouldn't be trying to break into her own place. I cautiously made my way to the door, peering out through the peephole. What I saw made my blood run cold. There was a man standing a short distance away, facing away from me with his head in his hands. Alarm bells started ringing in my head, and I immediately got a gut feeling that something wasn't right. I decided to play it safe and pretend I wasn't home, figuring it was just some drunken fool who stumbled upon the wrong door. I turned the TV back on but kept the volume low, my senses on high alert. About half an hour passed, and I heard the same rattling noise again. My nerves were shot, and I sprang into action, heading straight for the door. This time, I decided to confront whoever it was and demand answers. I swung the door open, ready to give the intruder a piece of my mind. To my surprise, the guy looked just as bewildered as I felt. Without missing a beat, I told him straight up that I saw him trying to open my door earlier, and if he didn't leave right then, I'd be calling the cops. He seemed taken aback, his tired eyes meeting mine, and without a word, he backed away and retreated to the entryway of our apartment block, where he sat with his head in his hands. I couldn't shake the feeling of unease, but I didn't want to overreact either. I shot a quick text to my girlfriend, filling her in on the situation and urging her to give me a call when she was ready to come home. I didn't want her risking running into this guy if she decided to grab a taxi. As I waited for her call, I turned off the TV and kept myself occupied with my phone. Sure enough, just after midnight, she rang to say she was ready to head back. When I went to meet her, the entryway was empty, and there was no sign of the guy anywhere. I kept my eyes peeled as we made our way to the car, just in case. When we got home, my girlfriend brushed off the whole thing, chalking it up to some drunk guy trying to find his way home. I nodded along, but deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it. The guy seemed more tired than drunk to me, but I guess appearances can be deceiving. I have no clue if he knew someone in our apartment block, or if he had more sinister intentions. All I know is that I'm relieved we always keep our front door locked and bolted, because if it had been unlocked that night, who knows what could have happened. All I can do now is hope he never comes back and pray that we stay safe and sound in our little home. Many months ago, my parents transformed our garage into a massive bedroom/hangout space, where we all gathered to play video games and throw some epic parties. I was a sprightly 10-year-old, and it was only the second or third time I found myself home alone, while my siblings were off doing their own things. I spent the night delving into the joys of our PS2, enjoying the solitude and freedom. As the night rolled on, something peculiar interrupted my gaming bliss, tapping on the window. My parents had revamped the garage, replacing the garage door with a wall window and a regular front door, complete with bolt and doorknob locks. Engrossed in my game, I mistook the rhythmic tapping for in-game sounds, the innocent musings of a child's mind. The tapping, like fingers drumming in a swift pattern of 1, 2, 3, 4, continued for what felt like an eternity, around 5 minutes. It only hit me when the doorknob rattled with a knock. Panicking, I tiptoed to the door to double-check the locks. To my shock, both locks were unlocked. The door had a habit of pretending to be jammed, so I hastily locked both, making sure the intruder knew there was no chance of getting in. A sigh of an older man and a disturbing laugh followed. Then the knocking intensified, like a relentless drumbeat on the door. Frozen with fear, I stood there as the knocking turned into banging, the intruder giving it his all. I felt a chill as he moved to one of the windows, covered with a blanket. Though I couldn't see him, his shadow terrified me. Stuck in a state of fear, I didn't know what to do. He returned to the door saying, "Let me in, love. I'm cold and hungry. Don't you want to be nice to your neighbor?" In a panic, I switched off the light, sprinted to my room, and hid in my pitch-black closet under my blanket. I stayed there until my parents returned a few hours later from their anniversary date. Three months back in January, something creepy happened to me that still sends shivers down my spine. At the time, I was a 17-year-old home alone for 6 days. My mom and stepdad decided to celebrate their wedding anniversary with a trip to Mexico, leaving me with the house to myself. Being a teenager left alone, I had a blast, going out, having parties, and doing things I probably shouldn't have. My mom had hidden her car keys, but I managed to find them and used her car to visit my then-girlfriend. One night, I drove to her house, which was about 20 minutes away, but it was in a sketchy neighborhood. On the way back home around 1 a.m., I noticed a car tailing me. I took a different route to shake them off successfully. When I got home close to 2 a.m., my dogs were barking loudly and angrily, an unusual behavior. Curiosity got the better of me, and I peeked through the blinds to see a black car parked outside, the same car that had followed me. Fear gripped me when I saw two figures walking through my backyard. I rushed to lock all doors and windows, closing the curtains. A deep voice resembling an older man reached my ears. He was talking on the phone, and the conversation chilled me to the bone. "Yes, we're here. The parents are away. I think there's a young boy here, around 17 or 18. Don't worry, we're going to try and take him soon." They attempted to open doors and windows, while my dogs barked furiously. That's when I thought of my gun-loving neighbor, David. I ran outside, shouting and knocking on his door, explaining everything. With his gun, we confronted the intruders, and they fled when David threatened them. They hopped into their car, but David managed to jot down their license plate number, calling the cops. I never told my parents about the incident, not wanting to get them into trouble. It's still hard to believe that 3 strangers tried to abduct a teenage boy. This happened only a few months back. I'm 26 years old and I moved in recently with my boyfriend. In my first year of living solo in a fresh apartment, everything was going smoothly until a new guy moved in next door, leaving me with a lasting memory. Understanding the tale requires knowing our apartment setup. The crucial detail? A wall separates my balcony from his, but there's a 2-foot gap, an easy walk between them. Before this, a friendly lady lived next door, and we shared a respectful distance. Things changed when the new neighbor, let's call him Sam, arrived. One day, while he and his apparent girlfriend were unloading groceries, our paths crossed. Despite a friendly nod, they ceased their conversation as soon as I stepped out of my car. In the elevator, Sam, a 33-year-old with a slim, muscular build and a peculiar excitement, bombarded me with questions about my background. During the 45-second ride, he delved into where I liked living, my job, and more. It struck me as odd, but I brushed it off, thinking he was just happy about his new place. In the following weeks, Sam and I crossed paths often. He always engaged in small talk, consistently addressing me as Miss. His girlfriend faded into the background, and I occasionally overheard heated conversations from their apartment. One night, the noises escalated into screams, breaking glass, and chaos. Concerned, my boyfriend and I checked, but the girl apologized, dismissing it as a minor issue. However, my mistake was not delving deeper into the matter. That night, I heard more screaming but convinced myself it was a dream. The next morning, personal news distracted me, and the chaotic night faded into the background. Fast forward 2 weeks, Sam approached me on a warm day, asking about buying weed for his birthday celebration. Uncomfortable, I suggested searching for a dispensary. To my shock, He casually admitted scratching my car while driving drunk the previous night, proposing cash instead of involving insurance. An hour later, I found the scratches, deciding not to pursue the matter. My unease grew as I sensed something off about Sam. Days later, the police knocked on my door, revealing Sam's violent actions towards his girlfriend. The ordeal unfolded in my apartment, and my fear lingered even after Sam's arrest. Worried about potential revenge, I avoided my balcony. Sam's return heightened my anxiety, but a strange encounter in the parking lot ended with him offering me money to be a witness. Terrified, I declined, and he left a note, counting on my support. Days before his hearing, I discovered he had been on my balcony again. Fearing for my safety, I stayed away and informed the police. The trial day arrived, and I received another unsettling note from Sam. Instead of attending, I sought refuge at my mom's place, returning when things seemed normal. Sam vanished, and a new face cleaned out his apartment. Life returned to normal, but uncertainty lingered. Attempts to verify his status in the county jail yielded no information. My biggest regret is not reporting the disturbance earlier, and I hope never to encounter Sam again. Last year, I rented a place in a small, economically struggling old mining town in Virginia. Living alone, one warm spring night, I dozed off in my living room on a comfy recliner. However, my peaceful sleep was abruptly disrupted around 4 a.m. when I heard the unsettling noise of my doorknob turning. Thinking it might be a simple mix-up, I called out, "Hey, wrong place!" But the doorknob persisted in its turning, and soon the door shook violently. A mysterious hand began punching the door, and the intruder growled menacingly, making bizarre, horrifying animal-like sounds. Feeling alarmed, I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and promptly dialed the police. As I anxiously waited inside, 2 officers arrived, but the person had vanished. Despite a thorough search, there was no trace of the intruder. The officers advised me to call again if anything suspicious happened. The unsettling encounter left me too anxious to go back to sleep, and by the time I resumed my day, it was already 5 in the morning. As the day unfolded, my anxiety lingered, making me worry that the stranger might return. Later that evening, after returning from work, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had broken in. Despite my anxiety-driven thoughts, everything seemed normal at home. However, as the night progressed around 9:30 or 10 o'clock, strange occurrences began to unfold. While engrossed in a book on my couch, I heard a sudden, loud, and peculiar sound, seemingly from inside the house. Though I momentarily forgot about it, soon after, muffled voices reached my ears, leaving me puzzled about their origin. Panicking, I questioned myself. Where the hell is that coming from? The unsettling feeling grew stronger, and suddenly, a chilling scream pierced the air, unlike anything I had ever heard before. The adrenaline surged, and a horrifying realization hit me: the crawl space. Fighting the urge to call the police again, I decided to investigate myself. Walking outside and circling the house, I approached the crawl space from the outside. Having never seen it before, I was taken aback to find a guy inside, seemingly asleep or under the influence of drugs. Suppressing my frustration, I silently called the police and stepped out of the crawl space. When they arrived, I pointed out the man, and the officers pulled him out. To my shock, the man had been practically living beneath my house, with a sleeping bag, a lantern, and a stash of food. The revelation horrified me, and sleep became elusive for weeks as I wondered how I hadn't noticed him all this time.